My name is Freddie Blosh.
Hey, I'm Gage Nobles.
So my name is Trace Johns.
I am Caroline Grayton with part of Muffinjaw Designs.
From Mobile, Alabama, and we currently operate around the Mobile Bay area in both Mobile and Baldwin County. And I blow glass because it's like nothing I ever saw before I ever worked with it. And it immediately drew me in. And after that first semester, I took glass blowing as an elective. I knew that I was going to do this the rest of my life. So I've been blowing glass for 8 years. Started in 2013. I was 20 years old. So yeah, looking at 8, going on 9. That's how numbers work.
Been blowing glass since Freddie started. We started together, so. We go back to like 8th grade, like 7th, 8th, middle school. We played soccer together, so we've been friends for ever.
Trace Johns, brother from another mother. Trace and I played soccer together when we were 13. That's how we first met. We never went to the same school until college. It was the first time we ever got to really spend every waking moment together. We had so much fun in college blowing glass. His work is some of the, I don't want to, like, Trace Johns is the best sculptor I've ever seen, but I love his work. Like, he really makes some incredible pieces in glass, and he's trying to make it not look like glass, or he's not trying to make a glass piece like any other glass piece you've ever seen. Because you think of glass as being this fragile, like, don't touch it, don't be mean to it, like, don't even look at it, because it'll break. And he's just like, no, let's hammer it. Let's take knives to it. Let's beat it around. Let's scribble on it. He paints on it. I love everything he does.
As long as Muffinjaw's been a thing, I've been around. Sometimes more hands-on than not, but been here, man.
I studied at the University of South Alabama, and then I did a 2-year apprenticeship at Augusta Glass Studio in Augusta, Missouri, under Kaiko Mahata and Sam Stang. Started blowing glass at South in the fall of 2013. And like I said earlier, I just took it as an elective and didn't really know what I was wanting to do with my life at that time. I kind of had this idea that I was going to be a rock star, and I was really learning like that was never going to happen. I just kind of stumbled into it. I was working a job, and my manager mentioned that South had a glass blowing class, and I didn't really know that that was a thing. I didn't understand what glass blowing was even. I thought it was torch working. So the first day I walk into class, me and my buddy Trace, he and I sat behind the torches because we were like, we want to be first up. Like, we want to be the first ones that are working with glass in this class. And after the teacher introduces himself and explains the course, he's like, all right, let's go out to the hot shop. And then he shows us the furnace. And it was, one, it was like pulled the rug underneath us. And 2, we're like, this is not what we signed up for. And I don't know, it was just like, we weren't really hooked at first. We were always trying to get on the torch. We always went back to the torch whenever we had free time because it was a really big class. Like, your intro class is what makes it a department. It really, like, you have all these people that are trying it for the first time, and you either fall in love with it or you want nothing to do with it. So we kind of were like, we were hanging out, like, we were finishing out the semester. We definitely weren't going to quit. Most people don't have that kind of opportunity to work in a shop and have open access to it. Like, if there's free time, just come on in and work. And especially with glass, that was insane,
Honestly, our whole first semester of glass, as far as glass-related Freddie stories, is probably the best, just because it started out on just a whim. Like, we had watched, like, we'd been into glass, we didn't even know what we were getting into. We first started, we were getting into lamp working from watching like just documentaries and stuff. We found out that's wasn't what we were doing. And then from there it was just winging it, trying to make the best we could do, being so proud of just nothing, little caterpillars, to sharing stuff just to make grades and stuff. Sounds kind of bad, but we had fun the whole time. It wasn't like anything terrible. To giving all our color back to the teacher because we didn't think we were going to continue. Thought we were going to have to go back to the real world. We were bouncing around school at that time. That was a blur. We were anthropologists, teachers, scientists, doctors, poets. We were true scholars back then. And then just over the summer, we decided never go back to the real world.
We gave away all of our equipment, all of our color and stuff that we had bought for that first semester because we're like, oh, we're done. Like that, it was fun while it lasted, you know. But we're never gonna do this again. And over the winter break, I'm like looking at stuff on my phone, like on Instagram, of all these other people, other glass artists, and all the work that they were doing. And I just thought, like, I text Trace. I was like, dude, we got to go back. Like, I don't see myself doing anything else. Like, this is it. So the next semester, we both had a meeting with our professor, Matthew Patterson, and we're like, hey, we're glassblowers now. Like, what do we got to do? And he's like, all right, like, you know, because not too, out of a class of 14, I think there were 4 returning students, and we were the only 2 from that class that decided to be actual glass majors. The other 2 weren't glass majors. They were just gonna do it because they wanted to do it, because it just, I mean, it captures you. You know, if you get bit by the glass bug, you're never gonna get away from it.
I met Freddie up at South Alabama in college. We took the same elective, kind of found glassblowing the same way. We just thought it was going to be something different. And once we got there, we found just a whole new craft that we didn't really know existed, and fell in love with it. And he, from the beginning, was a hard worker, and he wanted to be a glassblower. And that was my guy to hang around if I wanted to be a glassblower.
Gage Nobles. What can I say about Gage Nobles that can be broadcasted in public that doesn't make him sound like an absolute just assassin? He's a glass assassin. When Gage is there, Gage shows up and he shows out and he does it every time and he's on it. The only time I've ever seen him really mess up is when he's suffering heat exhaustion and he's still going through it. One time we did a demo and he's like, hey, I think I might have swallowed some glass. You good? Yeah, I'm good. And he keeps on going. Like, he does not stop. But he's the goblet maker. He's the goblet specialist, stemware specialist. He dedicated his entire glassblowing career to just making goblets, which is the most heartbreaking, devastating, lowest success rate of any piece you can make in glass. And he's like, yeah, that's for me. But he's there. I'm like, hey, we got to load in at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock. It doesn't matter. He's there. You know, shows up, shows out.
The craft is great, and I mean, it's not a normal job. So some jobs you can go in and not really care about, but we're starting our own business. You either care or you don't. You either work as hard as you can or you don't. And I don't know, if we're gonna make it, you gotta work hard. Freddie deserves somebody to work hard for him.
I was pre-Muffinjaw. I actually was around before Muffinjaw started. I got to see the creation of what the business is today, which is pretty cool. I was with Freddie and Trace when they were blowing glass just in school and watching them make really awesome things / shitty. But they were able to sell it, and eventually Muffinjaw came about.
Caroline Grayton, my better half, every gather of glass she's ever taken has been either out of this furnace or our other demo furnace. Everything she's learned is, you know, been around me, like either with me or with our friends. So love her to death. I get her pieces. I get her cups at the end of the day. That's my favorite piece. Just looking at those cups. I used to tell Caroline that I'm cheating on her with glass because I think about glass all the time. I think about Caroline and Evie all the time, but I think about glass more times than I probably should. I love them equally. Caroline, I love you a little bit more. I love Evie just as much. I love glass probably a little bit too much than I should.
My speciality is technically sculpting, but I mean, we can all kind of bounce back and forth between various stuff, but I'm not really an expert in anything. It's all about surviving, making stuff that people like, but sculpting is where I really get the most like inspiration. My most memorable piece, the piece that I made called Happy Thoughts. It was the first piece that I was actually like really proud of. It was the first one I was like, I made that. I wanted people to see it instead of just, I'd been told like certain stuff I'd done was like really nice and stuff, but it was always finding the flaws in every piece I made. That was the first one that I was truly proud of, and I really incorporated a bunch of different like found objects. I welded stuff, I bought floral pieces. That was that was the first piece where I ever started incorporating painting onto like the glass and using paint with the glass, and it's really kind of fueled every piece that I've made since.
I specialize in Venetian style stemware, like goblets, as most people refer to them. I kind of got wrapped into them because they're really difficult to do. So whenever you actually finish a goblet, like a nice thin, any style goblet, it's really satisfying. You get that small bit of adrenaline rush that you can't really get anywhere else. The difficulty in making goblets is the fact that you have to blow really thin, and thin glass and heat and cold don't really mix well. So you got a really thin cup, you can get it really hot and it'll just crumble in on itself. Or it can get too cold like usual and it'll just crack and shatter. It's different working with thicker, hotter glass than it is with thinner, colder glass. I love it. It's difficult. My most memorable piece, I'd have to say it's two pieces, and it'd be my first two successful goblets. And probably my first one. It was an optic mold, optic stem, first attempt at a goblet, and I had both Freddie and Trace there helping me. And there was a crack in the cup, but it turned out successful, and ever since then I wanted to make more and more and more. Then there was my first dragon goblet. That was tough. It was thick, but I pulled it off. I've been chasing it ever since.
I have lovingly been deemed the head bitch in charge. I don't blow much glass, but I do assist. I am the pumpkin and ornament assistant. Mainly I work at markets, and I run Muffinjaw social media and set up events and kind of all around do whatever's needed at the time that it's needed. It It was fun because I'm not a naturally artistic person. And so for someone who can't draw a stick figure, to learn how to blow glass was just more approachable to me. It's kind of an addicting thing to do. Once you try to do one little thing and you have just a little bit of success, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this again. I'm making it better, and you don't. And so you keep trying and keep trying. And it was just a way for someone, like I said, who's not super creative or artistic or naturally inclined for those sorts of things to make art.
I mean, we're a family, and as cliche as that sounds, we're small business. We're like a family here. No, we really are like a family. This is a family business. You know, my daughter's raised in the shop. My daughter sat on this bench and worked on pieces with Gage, Trace, Caroline. My dad's worked in the shop, worked on this bench. You know, he's the one that pushed me to do this. You know, my mom, she's accepted every broken, crappy piece that only a mother could love. And she's there when we need her. You know, she's there when we don't need her. But yeah, Gage, Trace, like, my daughter grew up around them to where that's Uncle Gage and that's Uncle Trace.
What do you primarily make?
Glass.
Let me rephrase the question.
Yeah.
What glass pieces do you primarily make?
I primarily make vessels. I don't really get into sculpting much. That's more of Trace. Trace is our sculptor. And also, I don't really make goblets. I have been known to sculpt and I have been known to make goblets, but I leave that to the professionals, Gage and Trace. So I really enjoy making bowls, vases, and cups, especially during demos. I love showing somebody or people how to make a cup or what it takes for us to make a cup, because when you see one sitting on our table, you don't fully understand what all it takes to turn liquid goo into a functioning piece. But I like making cups probably the most because it's a piece that you really connect with. It's a very intimate piece. Matthew Patterson, my professor at South, during one of our critiques in front of an entire classroom says, you gotta talk sexy to the glass. You're being too much of a brute. You gotta calm down and you gotta work with it because it's fluid. You can't beat it around, you can't be rough with it. You gotta see what it wants and you gotta know what it needs. And you gotta be able to just guide it. So I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. You know, my goal is to make your favorite cup. When you get done with work or like when you start your day, you're gonna grab the piece that I made and you're gonna, you know, take care of it, hopefully. When it does break, it's okay because glass breaks. But there's just something about like making a function, you know, of a piece that functions, a piece that serves a purpose. You know, aesthetically pleasing pieces are nice, and I do make those, but it's really special to me when it can also, you know, help you or do something for you. That's my favorite thing to make.
Okay, will you paddle that?
Garrett, Redbeard's Outfitter. Redbeard's Outfitter. Get it right. I had done that first demo at South Sounds, and I was in my senior year and working on trying to develop a body of work that I would then improve upon on my final semester of my senior year. So it was our directed studies. And a part of the grade for that semester was you had to organize your own show. You had to come up with a body of work. You had to find a venue that would show your work. You had to print off all the press for your work. and advertise the event, advertise the venue, make sure everything's set up where like drinks, hors d'oeuvres, everything was ready to go. It was all on you because you're about to go out into the world and you have to do this as a pup. You know, like being totally green and not knowing what it takes to do this. And I just, you know, Garrett and I, we met around like the first month that he opened up. Caroline and I took our daughter Evie in after our first hike that we took her to the botanical gardens. We were hiking Longleaf Trail in the botanical gardens. And then we're like, hey, well, there's this new outdoor store. Let's go check it out. It's just right up the street. So we went up there, we meet Garrett, we start talking, and just, for whatever reason, I just was like, hey, so this is what I do, I blow glass, you know. And it's Thanksgiving time, I'm making a lot of Christmas ornaments, and this is kind of like how I support myself and my family. Is there any way that I could sell this here? Because I'm not selling my work anywhere else, you know, other than at South when we do our holiday sale once a year. Garrett's like, yeah, man, I'll put you right up on the register so when someone's checking out, they got to see your stuff. Cannot thank him enough for doing that. And so yeah, directed studies, I approached Garrett a few months later. Hey man, I got these bodies of work and I got to do a show. I got to, you know, make sure that I get this seen. I got to do it for a grade. I mean, I'm doing it for myself, but this is, you know, the other students weren't doing it. The other classes weren't doing it. The graphic design and sculpture and ceramics, they're not doing this, but thank you, Matthew, for making me go through that. But just, you know, mustered up the courage. Hey, Garrett, can I have my show here? Yeah, man, come on, do whatever you want. My place is yours. And so I was like, okay, can we blow glass out here? I don't see why not. So we set up the glass furnace in the pizzeria down the street. Is like, are y'all making pizza out here? Like, no, sir, we're blowing glass. You know, this is our second demo we've ever done. I actually, I talked to a customer recently that they mentioned, oh yeah, we saw these guys blowing glass out at Redbeard's a few years back, and this happened a couple months ago. I was like, yeah, that was me. I'm the only person that's ever blown glass in that parking lot. So that was another humbling experience to have this connection with people, whether they realize it or not. But yeah, like we were their first time that they had ever seen blown glass. So like they remember us. They remember the glass. Yeah, and that's really what it's for. They remember the glass. We just happened to do it. And so that was nice. Thank you, Garrett, for letting us take over the back room and put a furnace on your front porch. That was so much fun that day. Let's start from the beginning. Mom, Dad, Sean, Mike, Jeff, Bridget, our parents, I cannot thank them enough for saying, yeah, you're kind of crazy for wanting to be a glass blower, but we understand, we support you, and for understanding, especially Big Fred. You know, I can't not thank him enough for taking classes so that he could understand it better, for traveling with me to Americas, for helping set up demos, for helping me work this equipment, for helping me get this equipment, for, you know, just saying, I got you, don't worry about it. Like, if you ever need anything, I'm here. I cannot thank him enough. Caroline, cannot thank you enough, but we'll talk about that.